Hi, Joe. Could you introduce yourself, tell us who you are and the post that you're in?
Yes. Hi. Yeah, Joanna Leigh. For the last 18 or so months, have been the sustainability coordinator at the Birmingham 2022 Organising Committee, focusing on supporting the sustainability commitments and particularly around the carbon management aspect as well.
Overall, without going into too much detail, what were the climate targets, the carbon targets for the Games?
So the Games committed to creating a carbon neutral legacy, the ambition to create a carbon neutral legacy for the Games, which meant sort of understanding our impact in the first place, really working hard to try and reduce that impact wherever possible, following up with the final measurement of the carbon footprint, and then balancing that out with a forestry project in partnership with Severn Trent, which will sequester the carbon over the next few years as those trees mature, and those credits will be retired in the name of the Games by the and verified by the Woodland Carbon Code. So lots of work has gone into that process, and there'll be a sustainability report coming out as well where people can find out or more kind of what we've done across the carbon management part of things, but also across the wider sustainability pillars as well.
What did you feel initially was the role for engagement, getting your colleagues and all the other multiple participants in the Games on board with the agenda?
Yeah, I think engagement is key. We sit in a sustainability team, but we require that the team at large as well to really help us on that journey. We have so many experts within the organisation in their different fields, so really engaging them to think about carbon sustainability as part of their roles, as well as and that extending to suppliers, was really important for us. And then of course, in any way we can as a sporting organisation, try and engage fans and the wider audience as well, because it's such an opportunity there for sport as a whole, and the amount of reach that sport has in terms of engagement in those areas too.
So it wasn't just about your footprint. It was about you maximizing your impact as the Games on everyone, not just the staff, the athletes, the spectators, supply chain, etc. So maximizing your influence.
Yeah, as much as possible. And obviously, we have to have our own house in order first before we start asking things of others and etc. So that was a big part of the role. But we can't forget that engagement piece, and admittedly we'd have loved to do more. There's always more you can do on the engagement, but it was a focus for us in different guises.
Yeah, great. So you came to the Carbon Literacy Project. What did you make of it when you first came across us? First impressions?
Yeah, I obviously such a key area to help demystify this topic of carbon impact for people. It was something that one of our key sort of regional stakeholders was working on, which is where I personally first heard about it, and where the sort of very initial idea it came from. But ultimately, it's just about trying to give people more of an insight, give people more knowledge, so that they can, when they start reading about greenhouse gases or climate impacts, which are inevitably more in the news these days in all sectors, as well as sport, that they can have a little base understanding on what that means, and give them the platform to go find out more and go engage others as well.
You designed the course. How was that for you, designing a course to fit the carbon literacy standard and get that certified?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big project. I think the journey that we went on to understand, what might be relevant to the sports sector, aligning it with the carbon literacy standard, which is a thorough standard. There are key criteria you have to meet with that standard. It has to be accessible for people. it has to meet lots of different things to make it as broad yet relevant as it possibly can be, for people all across, in our case, the sports sector. So yeah, it was a big project. Developing 8 hours of training is no mean feat, not a simple task. So yeah, there's been lots of work that's gone into it. We've consulted with different experts in the sector, as well as obviously Carbon Literacy Project themselves, in terms of what their learnings are from delivering this training across other sectors. So yeah, it's been a good long process, and it's great to see it sort of coming together into a resource that hopefully benefits lots of organisations and lots of people.
We'll come on to that in a second. So you certified a course, you did all that stuff of aligning the relevant content to a course that was sufficiently broad yet still relevant to everyone's tasks. You got there with that.
Yeah.
Then you trained. Tell me about the training. Who were you training and how did it go?
Yeah, so as part of, I think, getting a course certified is one thing. That's still a task in itself, developing a course, and it then goes through this the approval process, the criteria checking process from a Carbon Literacy Project point of view is one thing, but then building that up into a toolkit is a different thing, and also another step of work. So as part of that process, we had to undertake pilots, which was kind of our initial sort of training touch point. So we ran a couple of pilots, one fully in person with a mixture of sports management master students and also a few people from the sector, which went, as any pilot, it went well. We took out the learnings, tried to incorporate them into the next iteration of kind of edits and stuff, so that they're used as the sort of springboard in terms of testing that out. And there's still more testing that to be done to make sure that it's really robust and ready for the sector. And again, that's an iterative process. We're always looking at feedback, always looking to incorporate that to make it as relevant as possible. But it was really enjoyable to see the training that a lot of work had gone into actually come to life and people engage in it, and ultimately be certified as well at the end of those pilots.
How did it go with your staff, with your colleagues? How did it land?
Yeah, so with our colleagues, it was actually a bit more of a challenge with our colleagues. We had to do elements of it. We couldn't do the full course because time was so limited. The organising committee is such, it's a very time limited place. So we interspersed elements.
You had the small matter of running the games.
Yeah, it was a big deadline.
Yes, about as solid
it was
a deadline.
A big deadline, exactly. So we focused it on, in terms of our training element, like our full training elements in those pilots, and people from the sector. But we definitely took elements from that process into our engagement with our colleagues. And when we're talking to them about carbon management or what their suppliers are doing or how we can reduce the impact, these elements all come into that, and those bits from the course around how you engage people, all sprinkle in. So yeah, it's been a mixture of processes between internally, externally, but ultimately all coming together in this course that hopefully can be a legacy, and can be something helpful for the sector.
When you say a toolkit, could you describe what you've created there?
Yes, so a toolkit is the core course itself. There are a couple of variations in terms of what you might get in terms of a carbon literacy course that isn't a toolkit. So in the toolkit version, there are a number of blue slides, which are slides left more open for organisations to add in their own content, to make sure that this, toolkit's obviously designed to be as broad as possible across the sector, but give the space for organisations to make content really specific to and relevant to their particular audiences that they're delivering to. So there's the course content, there's the supporting notes within that sort of big slide deck, as it were. There's also a supporting trainer guide, which again is designed for anyone really to be able to pick up, read through, understand what the toolkit is, understand different tips and recommendations on how you might deliver it, information about the course structure from the sport course structure, etc. So that's the trainer guide, and then there's also an extensive trainer script. So the idea of that is more in-depth notes across all modules, so that in theory anybody could deliver it if they're confident to. They should have the information there in front of them that they can use to deliver it and engage all the different learners. So yeah, it's quite a thorough set of materials, and that's really needed to cater for the different needs that the sector might have. But the key point being that it's 90% of the way there for someone, to try and lower those barriers for training, so that there's still a little bit of work to do, but actually it's a real big kind of nudge or facilitator to get you most of the way there in the first place, to try and just lower those barriers for people to be able to engage in training or deliver training as part of their organisation.
What would you say to a sports organisation considering taking up carbon literacy?
I think definitely consider it. I think the feedback we've had from our pilots has been really positive. People have been really engaged in the content and have really found it valuable, linking sort of introductions in general climate science to actually what the sports sector is experiencing, both in terms of climate impact on the sports sector, but also actually sports role in reducing its own climate impact, and that bi-directional relationship. So it's very much an introductory into those key themes, and a way to get colleagues in the sports sector collaborating and thinking about these topics in a more collaborative way and a more proactive way. So hopefully they can then take those conversations on into their own roles, back into their organizations, and really try and nudge forward these conversations amongst all roles and responsibilities within the sports sector. So we've designed it to try for it to be engaging. We've designed it to have enough flexibility that it can be relevant to most people in the sports sector. So yeah, if you're looking for some training within your sports organization or within suppliers serving the sports world, then give it definitely check it out and see how it might fit with what your needs are. There's lots of flexible ways you can deliver it. It could be all in one go, it could be over a couple of days, it could be over 3 days, whatever sort of fits with the format and time capacity that you might have. So there is flexibility in there, but it's a comprehensive set of resources that can hopefully help accelerate some learning in this space.
Fantastic. And if the organization's got past the, yes, we're going to use this, now your advice to the person that's going to pick up and deliver it, so that process of taking the toolkit into the room, as it were, what advice would you give that person?
Take some time beforehand to really sort of digest it, especially if you're not so familiar with the content. Like with any sort of delivery, being familiar, being confident in what you're going to deliver is really, really crucial. And with the resources and the materials are there provided to help you get to that confidence point. And then I think when you're in the room, it's really about the learners and delivering that core content, but also facilitating discussion, facilitating conversation, getting learners' thoughts, and making it interactive as well, because that's how people are going to enjoy it, that's people going to engage and hopefully take things away from it as well. So they're probably my two key things.
And that you referred to the pre-formatted blank slides before. Is that really straightforward to slot in the stuff that's relevant to your sport and your organization?
Yes, I hope so. So yeah, the blue slides they come at different points in the course where there are natural opportunities for your own organization to input content. So whether that be some information about your own sustainability strategy, might be examples from similar organizations your peers, as it were, to show specifically how organizations similar to yourselves are having an impact if they've measured their carbon footprint. And then I think module 4 is the real sort of flexible one, whereby it's a bit workshop designed, and it's all about the reduction strategies across sport and across key topics such as energy, transport, procurement of goods and services. So the idea there is in module 4, there's quite a few blue slides where people can really dig into what their key impact areas are and really facilitate those conversations. So yeah, they're at natural points in the content to help make it relevant at those points.
And of course, we're on hand at Carbon Literacy Project to assist with that filling in. But most of all, that's where you put your stuff in there about your organization and your sport or your locality. That's the key to it. So whilst it's generic and applied and tested, there's a way of customizing it, which I think is the key to making it successful. Joe, look, thanks so much for the hard work bringing this all together. This is just at the beginning of that kit's journey, isn't it? Any final words of advice or wisdom to give to those people exploring this as a prospect?
My only final words, I think, is that the sports sector has such a powerful role to play in the climate conversation, both from its reducing its own impact on the environment, which none of us are currently immune to, but also sport having that voice and that engagement and that reach across so many people, across so much of society, to really try and forward these conversations and connect with people on these topics in a slightly different way through sport. So kind of, yeah, I'm just excited to see how people start to engage more in this topic. It's a really exciting space, I think. There's so many, lots of opportunities, and all the people working in this space are really collaborative, forward thinking and positive about the impact sport can play. So you don't have to be an expert in it. You just have to be interested, curious, engaged, and that can really go a long way. And this toolkit is designed to support people in getting engaged, in getting interested, in getting more curious. So yeah, lots of opportunities in the sports sector.
Joe, thanks very much.